First Contact and Ultimatum. The Solaran Empire had ruled the Orion Arm for 7,000 years without meaningful challenge. Their domain stretched across 300 star systems, their technology unmatched, their military might unquestioned. Every species they encountered followed the same pattern: discovery, assessment, subjugation, resource extraction. Some resisted initially, but none maintained that resistance for long. The Solaran way was elegant in its brutality: demonstrate overwhelming force, demand submission, and ensure compliance through orbital weaponry that could reduce cities to ash in moments. Admiral Vex Torin stood on the command deck of the Imperial Judgment, the flagship of the Solaran Third Fleet. His scaled skin gleamed under the blue lighting, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic displays surrounding his command station. The small blue-green world rotated slowly on the main screen, looking deceptively peaceful from orbit. Preliminary assessment of Sol 3 is complete, Admiral, reported Science Officer Nera. Her voice betrayed no emotion, as befitted a member of the Solaran Elite Corps. The planet possesses remarkable biodiversity and significant deposits of rare elements. Most notably, the dominant species has achieved rudimentary spaceflight and global communication networks. Vex Torin's mouthparts clicked together in amusement. Another world of primitives playing with toys they don't understand. What level of technology? Pre-FTL, Admiral. They've reached their satellite and established a small research station there, but haven't ventured beyond their system. Their energy production relies primarily on fossil fuels and primitive nuclear fission. They call themselves humans. And their military capabilities: negligible compared to ours. Nuclear weapons, chemical propellants, primitive directed energy on an experimental basis. They could not withstand even a fraction of our fleet's firepower. The Admiral's upper eyes narrowed while his lower pair focused on the data scrolling beside the planet's image. Another simple acquisition, then. The Emperor will be pleased. Their biological diversity alone makes this a valuable addition to the Empire. Tactical Officer Martin stepped forward. Sir, there is one anomaly in our assessment. Explain. Their technological advancement curve is unusual. Most species progress gradually, with development plateaus lasting centuries. These humans have accelerated from primitive flight to rudimentary space travel in less than a century. Their computational systems have undergone 5 major paradigm shifts in just 50 of their years. Vex Torin dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. Irrelevant. All species experience bursts of innovation before meeting the Empire. It changes nothing about the protocol. He turned to his communications officer. Prepare the standard first contact package. I want our demands transmitted simultaneously to all their major population centers. Deploy the demonstration vessels to grid position Alpha. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had performed this ritual dozens of times on dozens of worlds. The standard protocol never varied. Surround the planet with a show of force, transmit the Imperial demands, demonstrate destructive capability on an uninhabited area, then allow the inevitable capitulation. Demonstration target selected, Admiral, reported Martin. An uninhabited island in their southern ocean. No settlements, minimal impact on global ecosystems. Perfect. We want to extract their resources, not destroy them unnecessarily. Vex Torin's voice carried a note of what might have been mistaken for compassion in another species. In a Solaran, it was merely efficiency. The command crew watched as 12 smaller vessels broke formation from the main fleet, creating a visible pattern in Earth's sky. Billions of humans would be looking up now, seeing alien ships in their atmosphere for the first time, feeling the existential dread that inevitably preceded surrender. Sir, we're receiving thousands of transmission attempts from the planet, said Communications Officer Lyrex. Their leaders appear to be trying to establish contact. Ignore them. Proceed with the protocol. The main screen shifted to show a barren island surrounded by blue ocean. A targeting reticle centered on it, and a moment later, a beam of concentrated energy lanced down from one of the demonstration vessels. The island vanished in a flash of light, leaving only a roiling cloud of steam and debris. Demonstration complete, Martin confirmed. Transmitting Imperial demands now. The message that went out to Earth was the same one the Solarians had sent to hundreds of worlds before. People of Earth, you have been claimed by the Solarian Empire. Resistance is futile and will result in planetary bombardment. You will provide the following tribute annually: 30% of your world's rare element production, 50% of your biological research, and 1 million of your species for labor and research purposes. You have 48 hours to signal your compliance by ceasing all military activities and preparing your initial tribute. The consequence of defiance has been demonstrated. The bridge fell silent as the message transmitted. No one doubted the outcome. No species had ever responded with anything but terrified compliance after witnessing Solarian power. Now we wait, said Vextorin, settling back in his command chair. Maintain orbit and prepare boarding crafts for tribute collection. What happened in the next 48 hours didn't initially surprise the Solarians. Earth's military scrambled briefly, then stood down. Their communication networks buzzed with panic, fear, and debate. Their leaders convened emergency sessions, all expected, all according to the pattern seen hundreds of times before. But on the second day, something unusual occurred. The planet fell silent. All military activity ceased as expected, but so did most communications. The frantic diplomatic attempts to contact the fleet stopped entirely. Curious, observed Nira, monitoring the planetary data. They appear to be complying, but their behavior doesn't match our previous conquest profiles. Vextorin dismissed her concern. They're paralyzed with fear, nothing more. Prepare the collection ships. We'll begin with their leadership centers to establish proper control protocols. As the 48-hour deadline approached, Earth's major governments transmitted a joint message. It was brief and appeared submissive. We require additional time to organize the requested tribute. Our leaders will meet with yours in neutral orbit to discuss implementation details. The Admiral allowed himself a satisfied click of his mandibles. Predictable. They seek to delay while hoping for mercy. Grant them their meeting, but prepare weapons systems. Sometimes an additional demonstration is required to overcome lingering resistance. 12 hours later, a small contingent of human spacecraft ascended from Earth. They were unarmed according to Solarian scans, primitive chemical rockets carrying a delegation of 20 humans. They're requesting permission to dock with our command vessel, reported Lyrex. Granted, ordered Vextorin. Security teams at the docking bay. Full decontamination and scanning protocols. The human craft approached slowly, broadcasting no threatening signals. When it docked with the Imperial Judgment, the Solarian security forces were prepared for anything from suicide attacks to pathetic begging. What they weren't prepared for was the calm, almost serene demeanor of the human delegation. The humans were escorted to the ship's diplomatic chamber, a room designed to intimidate with its towering architecture and displays of Solarian military victories. Admiral Vextoran waited on an elevated platform, surrounded by his senior officers and Imperial guards. The lead human stepped forward. She was smaller than the Admiral had expected, with dark skin and silver-streaked hair. I am Dr. Amara Chen, Secretary General of the United Earth Council. We come to discuss terms. Vextorin leaned forward. There are no terms to discuss. You will provide the tribute as demanded, or your cities will burn. This meeting is merely a formality to establish the collection procedures. Dr. Chen nodded, her expression unreadable. We understand. However, before we proceed, we thought you might be interested in something we discovered recently. She gestured to one of her colleagues, who stepped forward with a small device. What is this? Demanded the Admiral. Just a demonstration of our own, replied Chen. With your permission. Curiosity overrode caution. Proceed. The human activated the device. It projected a hologram showing what appeared to be microscopic machines. These are what we call nanites, self-replicating machines too small to see with the naked eye. We developed them to cure diseases, but found they had other applications. Vextorin's patience was wearing thin. Is this an attempt to impress us with primitive technology? Our medical systems are centuries beyond. Not medical applications, Admiral, interrupted Chen. We found they work particularly well with certain crystalline structures, like the ones we detected in your ship's power systems. For the first time, a flicker of unease passed through the Admiral. What are you implying? Dr. Chen's smile remained perfectly pleasant. While you were scanning us, we were scanning you. Your technology is impressive, but not impenetrable to analysis. We took the liberty of introducing some of our nanites to your fleet 12 hours ago. They've been busy. Humanity's response. The diplomatic chamber erupted into chaos. Imperial guards raised weapons, officers shouted contradictory orders, and Admiral Vextorin rose to his full height, his scales flushing crimson with rage. "This is treachery," he roared. "You will all die for this deception." Dr. Chen didn't flinch. "I wouldn't recommend violence, Admiral. Not when your life support systems are currently under our control." As if to emphasize her point, the ship's lighting flickered briefly. Alarms began to sound throughout the vessel. "Admiral." Science Officer Nira's voice was taut with alarm. "We're detecting unknown technological signatures throughout all primary systems. Propulsion, weapons, environmental, everything." "Purge the systems," ordered Vextorin. "Emergency protocols." "We can't, sir," responded the engineering officer. "The safeguards aren't responding. Something is blocking our commands at the quantum level." Dr. Chen nodded to another member of her delegation, who activated a communications device. "This is Chen. Execute Phase 2. Tactical Officer Martin's console erupted with alerts. "Admiral, we're detecting multiple launches from Earth's surface and moon. Thousands of objects, accelerating toward the fleet." The main view screen showed swarms of small craft rising from Earth's atmosphere, not the primitive chemical rockets the Solarans had observed earlier, but sleek vessels moving with impossible speed and precision. "Impossible," whispered Nira. "They don't have this technology. Our assessments confirmed." "Your assessments were wrong," said Chen simply. "We've been aware of your presence at the edge of our system for months. We anticipated your protocols based on observations of your encounters with other worlds. We prepared accordingly." Vextorin struggled to comprehend the rapid collapse of everything he had assumed about this conquest. "You deceived us deliberately, concealed your true capabilities." "Of course we did," replied Chen. "It's what any prudent species would do when faced with an expansionist empire. We noted your preference for easy conquests and gave you exactly what you expected to see, a vulnerable primitive civilization ripe for the taking." The swarm of Earth vessels surrounded the Solaran fleet, but did not attack. Instead, they established a containment formation, cutting off any possibility of escape. "What do you want?" asked Vextorin, the imperial arrogance draining from his voice. "First, the immediate cessation of all hostile intentions toward Earth," said Chen. "Second, access to your navigational data on the Solaran Empire and neighboring systems. Third, a non-aggression pact that includes recognition of Earth's sovereignty and a buffer zone of 50 light-years around our system." The Admiral's four eyes blinked in astonishment. "You're dictating terms to the Empire. The Emperor will never agree. He will send the entire Imperial fleet to destroy your world for this insolence." Chen nodded to one of her colleagues, who projected another hologram, this one showing the inner workings of the Solaran ship's faster-than-light drive systems. "Your quantum displacement drives are remarkable achievements," said Chen. "But they rely on a specific frequency of subspace manipulation that can be disrupted with the right counter-frequency. Our nanites are currently modifying all of your drives to include a failsafe that will trigger if any Solaran vessel approaches our system with hostile intent." "You're bluffing," whispered Vextorin, but doubt had crept into his voice. "We don't need to bluff, Admiral. Right now, we control your ships. We could destroy your entire fleet, But that's not our objective. Humanity doesn't seek conquest. We seek security and peaceful coexistence, something your empire has denied to countless worlds. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vex Tauren faced a species that had not only resisted Solaran might but had turned the tables completely. His mind raced through options, scenarios, and potential countermeasures, but each led to the same conclusion. They had been outmaneuvered. How? He finally asked. How did a pre-FTL civilization develop technology that could counter ours? Dr. Chen's expression softened slightly. You made the same mistake many make when encountering something new. You assumed that different means inferior. You saw our fossil fuels and assumed we hadn't mastered fusion. You saw our space stations and assumed we hadn't developed advanced propulsion. You saw our nations and assumed we couldn't unite against a common threat. She gestured toward the view screen showing Earth. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, Admiral. It's our adaptability. Our history is filled with conflicts that forced us to innovate, to overcome, to find weaknesses in seemingly invincible opponents. When we detected your scout ships months ago, we didn't panic, we prepared. The ship's systems flickered again, then stabilized. That was a small demonstration, explained Chen. We could shut down your life support entirely, but that's not our goal. We're offering a choice. Return to your empire with a peace treaty, or don't return at all. The diplomatic chamber fell silent as the Solaran command staff exchanged glances. They had never faced such a decision. The empire did not negotiate, it conquered. After a long moment, Vex Tauren spoke. I cannot agree to such terms without the Emperor's approval. We understand, nodded Chen. Which is why we're sending a delegation to accompany you back to your home world. They will carry our terms directly to your Emperor. As a show of good faith, we'll restore partial control of your vessels, enough to return home, but not enough to threaten Earth. And if the Emperor refuses your terms, Chen's expression remained neutral, but her eyes hardened. Then the nanites currently integrated with your Imperial technology will demonstrate that refusing is not in the Empire's best interest. We've prepared contingencies for that scenario. Over the next 24 hours, a new reality took shape. The human delegation provided detailed terms for a peace treaty. Recognition of Earth's sovereignty, exchange of scientific knowledge, establishment of trade protocols, and most importantly, a fundamental revision of the Empire's conquest protocols. As the Solaran fleet prepared to depart with human representatives aboard, Admiral Vex Tauren requested a private word with Dr. Chen. You could have destroyed us, he said simply. Why didn't you? Chen considered the question carefully. Because that's the difference between your civilization and ours, Admiral. You see conquest as the only path to security. We see cooperation as a stronger foundation. Yes, we could have annihilated your fleet, but what would that accomplish? More Solaran ships would come, and a cycle of violence would begin. She looked out at the stars visible through the viewport. There's room enough in this galaxy for all of us, if we can move beyond the impulse to dominate. Perhaps the Empire needs to learn what humanity discovered through our own painful history. True power comes not from controlling others, but from working together. As the Solaran fleet departed Earth orbit, carrying the first human ambassadors to the wider galaxy, a new chapter in interstellar relations began. The empire that had never known defeat had been conquered not by superior weapons, but by superior thinking, and perhaps by a vision of the future that extended beyond the next conquest. Word spread quickly across the stars. The species that had submitted to Solaran rule for millennia heard whispers of the small blue planet whose inhabitants had sent the Imperial fleet running back to its masters with its tail between its legs. Some called it a myth, others a miracle. The humans called it Thursday. 3 months later, when the Solaran Emperor signed the Treaty of Sol with human representatives, the galaxy held its collective breath. The unprecedented agreement not only established Earth's sovereign territory, but created new protocols for all species under Solaran influence. The age of imperial conquest was ending, replaced by something new and untested: galactic cooperation. Admiral Vex Torin, now serving as the Empire's chief diplomat to Earth, stood beside Dr. Chen as the treaty was ratified. "You've changed everything," he said quietly. "No," she replied. "We just reminded the galaxy of something it had forgotten. That strength doesn't have to mean domination, and that sometimes the most powerful response to a threat isn't a bigger weapon, but a better idea." Across the stars, other civilizations watched and learned. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not as conquerors or subjects, but as architects of a new order, one built not on fear, but on the radical notion that different didn't have to mean enemy. The Solaran Empire had demanded tribute from Earth. Instead, they received enlightenment.